Hey everyone, it's Jack. I've been putting off doing a couple of the All-Stars twists because when I look at them, they just make me a little too angry. And I think in this case, the twist or the couple of twists that were done in All-Stars 3 were done the absolute worst out of any All-Stars season. All-Stars 3 is a really interesting season to look back on because at this point, it's a pretty old season. And coming off the heels of All-Stars 2, back then and even now, I don't think people looked at the season that fondly, and I definitely do think that the twists played into that. The endgame of the season, like the last 3 episodes, were pretty rough, but even in those episodes and a lot of the episodes before, there were a lot of iconic moments. Things that stick out to me are like Aja's talent show performance, Kitty Girl, a lot of Dayla's performances. There's so much to love about this season. But the thing is, it just occupies such a weird spot in my mind because there's just this big elephant in the room. Those last 3 episodes just really kill my enjoyment for the season. And it's all to do with the choices made by the showrunners. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 100K by the end of the year, and with your help, I could totally do that. Majority of you guys aren't subscribed, so I would just love to have you here. Last time I discussed how All-Stars 7's twist kind of dismantled the entire season because it made most of the season obsolete. They wanted to go with a big triumphant moment where any of the queens could earn 3 stars and no one was really out of the race. And looking back at All-Stars 3, the jury twist of the season gives very similar vibes to the 3-star twist on All-Stars 7. I'll get back to the jury segment in a second because there's another twist from the season that I don't think gets discussed enough for how terrible it is. That being the comeback challenge they did, basically the episode where Dayla eliminated herself. In another video, I discussed how in All-Stars 2, they brought the queens back and it created one of the most engaging, interesting episodes of the entire series. And for All-Stars 3, they tried to do that twist again and they tried to switch it up in a different way to make it not too samey, but multiple choices that they made for the format just didn't have enough thinking behind them, and it started this snowball effect that dismantled the second half of All-Stars 3. Before I continue, I'm getting a little hungry, so let's hear from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Factor. Factor is a meal subscription service that brings fresh, never frozen meals right to your doorstep. Factor chefs create delicious gourmet meals for each customer based on what the customer values. If you're watching your calories, go for the Calorie Smart option. Are you trying to get a little more protein in your meals? Go for Protein Plus. There's options for anyone and everyone, and I think that's really cool. As a college student still trying to get the hang of time management, it's hard to find the time to go grocery shopping every week. But with Factor, me and my roommates are able to skip the step of shopping and get a delicious meal along the way. Here you can see me and 2 of my roommates prepping a couple of the Factor meals. I personally had the sun-dried tomato chicken, which was delicious. And all we had to do was heat the meal up for 2 minutes and it was completely ready to go. Something else that's great about Factor is that each of the meal packages are really easy to discard. One of my least favorite parts about cooking a meal is cleaning up afterwards, and this package takes it out of the question. Also, Factor is now owned by HelloFresh, who I've worked with before. It's really cool how I can now switch between really fun meal prep or really easy and quick delicious meals. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code JackFed50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. So over the course of All-Stars 3, every single queen who was eliminated would be approached by Chad and Alaska in the workroom saying that they still have a chance to get back in the competition. Like I mentioned earlier, All-Stars 2 and All-Stars 4 both also had comeback challenges as well. But both of those seasons did something to help avoid a problem that actually happened in All-Stars 3. On a 10-person season, if you're trying to do a challenge where half of the eliminated queens come back and compete with the queens who are still in the competition, that's a 5 versus 5. And then if the outcome of the episode is 1 queen comes back to the competition and 1 queen is eliminated, they remain at 5. All of this would be completely fine if they didn't cut to a top 4 the next week. All-Stars 2 and 4 tried to shake this up a little bit and have 2 queens stay, making it 6 in the competition left. But in All-Stars 3, after the comeback episode, 5 queens remained and then they cut to a top 4. And when you're a queen who's been in the competition the whole time, you're just kind of incentivized to eliminate the queen who was brought back. Morgan McMichaels was that queen. It didn't help that she wasn't there for the entire competition, so she was just an easy choice to eliminate. Long story short, when there's only 1 queen brought back and there's only 1 more episode to compete in, that queen doesn't really get a chance to establish themselves any further. It's basically just another episode of screen time. Bottom line, I have a lot of thoughts about returning queens and most of them aren't very good, especially on All-Stars. I just don't think it works. But here's the thing about this twist, it's not even my least favorite part of the episode. So like how I mentioned earlier, 1 queen was eliminated and 1 queen was brought back. Morgan was brought back and then Dayla eliminated herself. But the way they went about this, the fact that anyone was eliminated at all, it just doesn't really make sense. For the entirety of the episode, it was eliminated queens versus queens still in the competition. It was 5 versus 5 the entire time. But it was announced that if the queens in the competition were to win the challenge, they would be able to bring someone back into the competition, but then they would also have to eliminate eliminate someone from their group. So unlike on All Stars 2 where it was teams of 2 and you can justify eliminating someone who wasn't on your team, here the top 5 were joined for the entire episode and technically they won the challenge against the other group, and yet someone still has to go home? Production wise, it's because they wanted to do a twist where an eliminated queen came back, but they didn't have enough episodes to justify a queen coming back and still having the rest of them still be in the competition, so they had to eliminate someone. It's just the framing of the competition this week that really gets me. You can't have this team work so hard, win the challenge, and then have someone eliminated from that group after they work so hard. This type of thing never works on All Stars, where some people in the group end up in the top and some end up in the bottom. Another example could be on All Stars 6 when Ginger landed in the top for her performance, but then Jan landed in the bottom even though they were in the same group. There's just no way Ginger was going to eliminate her teammate after they worked so hard together. It's the same thing here, and then you put it in the hands of Dela, who is already struggling with eliminating people in the first place. There was basically no other option for Dela to do aside from eliminate herself. That was basically her storyline for the whole season, aside from just doing well also. She had this internal struggle of going back to the competition even though she knew the format was something that she didn't really agree with. I've heard people critique her for that, and I do completely understand that, but obviously you're gonna go back to All Stars if they give you the opportunity. And one last thing about this episode, I truly don't like this episode for all of the choices that they made. The songs were great and that was the saving grace of the episode, but just the whole challenge concept in general, it doesn't really make sense for the eliminated queens to win at all. It would be awesome if the top eliminated queen would come back to the competition and then eliminate someone. It would make more sense than what they actually did in the episode. But to have the eliminated queens come back and beat the queens who are still competing, I mean, what does that mean for the queens who are still competing? It would end up making the queens who are still in the competition look worse because they couldn't be the queens who they already eliminated. So basically, they only had the choice of giving the win to the queens who are still in the competition. It does help that the top 5 did really good in the challenge, and they still did create a good amount of tension, and only when you think about the format and what they would actually choose to do, that's only where it starts to get dismantled. Overall, in concept, the episode and everything they tried to do is really cool, but once you kind of broaden it to the rest of production, so much just doesn't make sense and it shouldn't have happened, or they just showed too many of their cards. But then we get to the even bigger blunder and something that's honestly pretty similar to what just happened here. I think we can all agree that the jury twist is the most infamous and unfair twist that has ever happened on the show. Coming from someone who just got into Survivor and has loved Big Brother for a really long time, I like juries and I think it could honestly work on Drag Race, but the thing is, the queens need to know about it from the start. I have my own opinions about alliances on the show. I feel like there's never really a time to naturally form one or anything, but jury management and alliances are different things. I think we saw this with Shangela, who indirectly had very poor jury management because a lot of the queens just didn't want to see her win. While on the other hand, Trixie had really great jury management because she did well in the competition and also she didn't need to eliminate anyone. So I do think there are some flaws with the format and having bitter jurors because they are getting eliminated by queens in the competition. But I do think that it could work if the format is switched up just a little bit and also the queens are just warned about the jury going into the season. It creates a new layer to the competition, and though I don't think they'll ever actually do it again, it's honestly a cool thought to have and I'm interested to see it. People often complain and say that this was just a way for Trixie to win over Shangela without it getting too much blood on the producers' hands, kind of splitting the blame between all the queens and the producers. And in a lot of ways, I do see this. Trixie's way to the end was definitely not the cleanest. Dela going home and the jury twist, though she was doing well in the competition, these are things that she just kind of lucked out on having. But I think a lot of other people forget the other person who wasn't voted into the top 2 by the jury. Bibi Zahara Benet, the winner of season 1. Bibi did well in the competition and was very entertaining, but wasn't like the best by the viewers, mostly because her personality is very regal and she didn't really connect, and also the whole thing with Aja too. But they brought her back to the competition after winning season 1 to see if she still got what it takes to win again in the new era. And she definitely held her own, but the issue is she's still a winner, and they don't want to take that title away from her or discredit her in any way. Like in the finale of All Stars 7, they all got a scepter because they all still are winners and they want to be celebrated. And here with Bibi, it's kind of like that, but it's more of a protection thing. So just like in the top 5 challenge where they were given the win based off of the implications, here Bibi was eliminated by the jury based off of the implications. Though I do think that it helped Trixie and maybe that could have been their goal, I think the jury twist was implemented in order to not really tarnish the legacy that Bibi has. They're basically using the queens who are voting for them as a shield. If she's eliminated at top 4, oh, it's because of the queens. They didn't vote her in. It's not our choice. And when I think over the jury for this reason, I honestly honestly don't think it's that bad of a choice. I don't think the show needs to protect anyone, but for their standards, I think they wanted to uphold what they wanted to uphold, if that makes sense. BB is their first ever winner, and keeping her in high regard is just a good idea on the showrunner's part. The jury twist just softens the blow so much of what could have happened if she was eliminated by the showrunners themselves. And I think their thought process was just to leave it up to chance. If BB makes it into the top, that's great, maybe they can crown her for the second time. If Shangela makes it, that's great, she did the best in the competition. Trixie or Kennedy, they could also justify it. They probably got more blowback than they expected because Shangela didn't end up in the top, but I think this is all speculation. One of their goals was to protect the legacy of BB, and they did that really well. It was just a very sloppy path to get to that point. Shangela just got caught in the crossfire while Trixie had a straight path to the end. And like I said earlier, I think the jury twist could have worked out better if they just knew about it from the start. No decision on All Stars is ever gonna make everyone happy. People are always going to have their favorites, and especially around the time of All Stars 3 and 4, I feel like they were just so unsure of themselves. That's how we ended up with the jury and the Twinners. I feel like they were just so scared to make decisions themselves. And that's kind of been a problem with All Stars always, down to the fact that the queens are eliminating each other. I feel like the producers want to micromanage and push it their way, but they also just don't want the blood on their hands. But they really can't have it both ways. It's all a very big flaw in All Stars production, and I do hope we see a switch up. I want to see Lip Sync for Your Life again, to be completely honest. But honestly, we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video. I go on a lot of tangents, and I didn't expect to defend the jury twist as much as I did in this video, but that's just what my thought process is right now, so I hope you guys agree to some extent. I'm starting up my third year of college. I'll also be on Drag Duel this week, so please check me out there. I'll be with Cornbread. And that's about it. Thank you everyone again. I'll see you soon with another video. Once again, just want to say thank you Factor for sponsoring this video. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code JackFed50 for 50% off your first Factor box. I'm gonna go make one of those meals right now.